Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. I'm Jenny Arnold from PPM Works, and today I'm going to be covering mastering project budgeting and financial management, specifically in OnePlan. So we're going to take you through a few of the great elements of OnePlan and how that can help you streamline from the PMO perspective, how you can track your project budgets, cost, expenses, and resource plans as well. We have webinars once a week, and those webinars then get posted to YouTube. So even if you can't join our webinars weekly, you can always track them on our YouTube channel. We'll share that information with you later. But you can see we have a few coming up: managing multiple projects, data-driven decision-making with OnePlan reporting tools. That's a really good one. I happen to love Power BI, so I may be the host of that one. And then we'll talk about collaboration and communication with Microsoft Teams in project management. OnePlan allows for teams to connect directly, and you can have a team for each of your projects there in OnePlan. So that's a really handy tool, really good for sharing files and establishing communication as well. And then we'll talk about sustainability in project management, implementing green practices when we get to May. So let's dig right in. Today, we're going to be talking about tracking budgets in OnePlan, how you can do that and where in the tool you can do that. And then updating resource plans, because we can have costs associated with resources of cost. Of course, blended rates in OnePlan is a really valuable mechanism so that you can push your resource and labor costs right into your financial plan. We'll talk about tracking other discretionary costs and financial forecasting. And all of that will be done via a live demo. So let's dig right in. So in the OnePlan environment, we have several elements. We're using just a test environment here that has a whole bunch of test data in it, which is great. You can see here that I've got insights. If you have insights configured, this will show you when projects are running over cost, for instance, or haven't been updated in a long while. You can track what those insights are. You can determine what insights you want to measure and track, and you can customize that here in the tool. In the bottom of the page here, you can see I have my recent plans, and so we're going to take a look at the data warehouse migration plan. On the left-hand side in the quick launch menu here, we've got ways that the team members can track their work. This is the home page that I'm on now, but these would be specifically assigned tasks and risks and issues here in the My Work view, where users can log their time in the timesheets mechanism. This is used for ideas. So this would be, for many organizations, the intake mechanism, where users can track new ideas that may or may not eventually become plans or projects. We have strategies where you can track key objectives and strategies here, so that if you wanted to measure all of your projects against particular corporate objectives or key results, you can do that here in the tool. And this is where the overall My Portfolio resides. And then finally down here, resource plan. So this is where you can track your resource planning across your portfolio. So if we go into My Portfolio here, the plan that I was looking at was data migration, okay? What is really great about this view here is I'm in the financial summary view right now. This is not the default view, but this was the view that I last went into. So that's what allows me to just track all of those costs. And because it was the last view I went into, the next time I visit this page, that's the view that will come up initially. There are updates that come out with OnePlan about once every 10 weeks. And that happens to be a recent one, and we really love it. So you don't have to keep clicking on what the view is that you want to use. You can see we have a financial health metric here. These can be dynamically controlled, so you can make these calculated fields that are based on different variables. You can track these so that they'll respond, like I said, dynamically. So we have some of these that are off track, most of them on track, a few that are at risk. Okay, that color coded can be done in formatting rules as well. So if you don't like these colors, or if you have particular colors that you use, you can track those and change them as well. We have budget and forecast that shows here. Now, what's great about this is that these will dynamically come in from the financial module in each of these plans. They can be tracked at the plan level. I'll show you that in a moment. But as those get updated in the financial module, the plan level values will update automatically. So in other words, those budget costs, forecasts, amounts will automatically pull in and will be calculated and will roll up to the plan level here. Okay. Actuals, you can see only a couple of our projects in this demo environment have actuals in them because the typical behavior for clients is that actuals are migrated in from another tool. So if you have a financial tracking tool, BPC, for instance, we can set up an integration with that, either a custom integration that pulls that data in through Power Automate, which is what our specialty is, or you can just connect it directly to outside tools like SAP, for instance, so that you can bring those values in. So once you're tracking your budget and forecast, then you can bring those actual costs into the tool, and then you can make the comparison. That could be done here in the tool itself, or we have many clients who use lots of custom financial reports that we develop for them in Power BI. So you can make those variance calculations in your Power BI reporting as well. Let's take a look at this data warehouse migration project. Okay, and when we go to the details, you can see I can collapse these sections. Okay, there's sort of general project information on the top here. Any associated plans would be a result of showing those key results that I mentioned. So if this data warehouse project is tracking to particular objectives, those would show here. So you can see those have already been added to this test data. Business case information, project prioritization, and then if we get down a little bit further, you'll see here's the project financial section. Okay, so we have the budget shows at 186,250 and the forecast at 143,250. Okay, that's going to show you what the remaining budget is because there are no actuals in there that have actually been spent on this one. So all of the remaining budget remains as far as OnePlan is concerned because nothing has been brought in yet for actuals. Okay, the budget variance between the budget and the forecast shows as 43,000. So this is the difference between these two values. Let's take a look at financials. So in the financials, we have these different, what are referred to as cost types. Sometimes I refer to these as capture points because what typically happens for an organization is that they're always tracking their budget in a particular area and then at particular snapshot times. So if you have to track, okay, what's your budget looking like in July? What's it looking like in October? You know, perhaps the beginning of your quarters, you'll want to snapshot these budgets so that you can make the comparison by quarter against what you have captured as your budget initially. Okay, so budget might be your sort of working at all times. These are the updates that you're doing on a day-to-day or maybe week-to-week or month-to-month basis. But then you'll eventually want to track those against those quote-unquote snapshot points at each quarter. It's up to you how you do that. There's lots of flexibility in the tool. We have some organizations that do that several times a year, not just quarterly. So we have folks that have, you know, up to 10 different budget types here, whatever suits your needs. You also can have different budget types for tracking different things. So if you have, say, a marketing department, maybe they want their own cost type here where they just want to track their costs. And then in reports, all of those can roll up to an overall project cost. So what you're able to do here is you'd be able to compare to, so we can compare forecast to cost. So if we had values in here, so you can see this is what the budget looked like and this is what the forecast looked like. Okay. You can see if there's a variance of a particular percent. Let's see if we can have any tracking there. Yep. Okay. So this is going to do that math for you. So you can see what the variance is and whether it's a good variance. Positive is kind of a misnomer because if it's a negative variance, that means it's a good thing. So that's why it's showing in green. Okay. Now, if I do updates here, these updates will carry over into that top level field that I showed you here. That pulls into here. So this would update automatically once the file is updated. Okay. But then in the resource plan, you can also track the costs for resources here. Okay. you can see we've got plan totals here. And these costs, if there were costs associated with these, then those could be migrated into the financials, copied over into financials so that it would push through into labor cost here. So this has already been done here because this labor is showing you all of these generic resources that are OpEx expenses that are pulling into this financial module. Okay, so it will do the work for you is my point. You set up those rate codes, you track how many hours you need for each resource in the resource plan. You can see these are showing 40 hours for the month of April, for the month of May for this particular resource. We've got some project manager time here as well. Let's see if we can find another one that is a generic resource. All of these look like they're named resources on this particular plan, okay? And so if you want to track these or you want to add additional resources, you could see we could replace the project manager. If I select this up here, it only wants me to select one at the top and I had the plan total. No, it's not going to let me do that. That's okay. So what it would allow you to do is if you had a role model here, you could then select all of the project manager up here and you could replace it with the named resources below. Okay, so we could find resources here by role and I could look for project manager, let's see, okay? And then what we could do is we could select project manager down here and we could replace that resource and we could fulfill that entire resource or replace it. So we can do that. So now Rich Hendricks has been replaced by the project manager. So that is allowing us to say, okay, Rich Hendricks is going to take that project manager role. You can see his role here is project manager and would take on all of those hours that have been set up here. The same thing will apply if you have your rate codes by project manager, then Rich's project manager hours would be able to push into the financials and you'd be able to pull those costs over. Okay. The cost types are really beneficial because that's going to allow you to make the comparison at different snapshot times, as I like to call them. Okay, so let's go back here. When I looked at that next one, we can see we have actuals in this cybersecurity enhancement. Okay, so I navigated back to my portfolio view where I could see this other project that I knew had actuals tracked in it. So let's take a look there. And we can see here, if we go down to the financials here, this one has actuals tracked in it. So it's showing me a budget variance here and a remaining budget because the actuals is 71.9 less than the budget was for this project. So that's doing that math for you automatically. When we come into financials, it will default to the budget, which is the default cost type. But if we look at actual cost, that's where we can see that 225 that's come in here. Overall, you have lots of options for how you configure this. Tons of flexibility in the OnePlan tool, so you can decide what fields you want to show here. You can decide what cost types and cost categories. These are the cost categories that pull in here. I have yet to meet a client that has the exact same cost category and cost type needs as a previous client, but that's why we can help you configure the tool to best meet your needs. Those are all configured in the financial configuration in the OnePlan configuration setting. Those are not available to all users by design, so you'd have a set of global admins who would be the ones who would configure that. You can set these views to default to a particular date range so that if you have, like many of our clients, an offset fiscal year that say begins in October, we could have it display that way so that when we go to choose the dates, this year would automatically show this fiscal year, for instance. So this might begin in October 2024, even though that would constitute fiscal year 25. So my point is tons of flexibility and capabilities here in the tool so that you can do those calculations yourself and that you can show and slice and dice those visuals however you want to see them. Okay. You then could, if you had a dashboard here, you can see this is going to ask me to add a tab, but those visuals could embed right here so that you could have an embedded Power BI report right here in the tool. It allows you to have more than one tab now for those Power BI visuals. So you could have a financial report, you could have a resource utilization report, And then you could just have an overall status report, because don't forget, it's not just a financial tool, but it allows you to track the health of the project as well. So you can see here we've got a status here. This may be off track. We have several things that are on track. And then there are these great budget trend. These are trending fields that will work here in the UI so that you can see, okay, this is what the state was previously. Now it's on hold. It was active for the last 6 months, and now it's currently on hold. Okay, so those trends are really great, and I have lots of clients who find that really helpful. You can have all of these additional details in here, prioritization of the project, tons of flexibility in the tool is what I'm trying to point out. These process steps here at the top, if you had a project that was in the funnel, perhaps you wouldn't even be ready to put in any project prioritization or budget information. So you could hide an entire section of this page based on what stage the project is in. These are referred to as process steps in OnePlan. Okay, these can also be associated with a more detailed Power Automate. So if in order to get from the funnel to reviewing, it needed to go through an approval process, that could be handled either directly in configuration here for OnePlan, or you could have a much more detailed Power Automate. That could also ensure that financial information was entered before it went to the next stage. So you have all of those capabilities that are built right into the tool. If you're looking for more information from us, you can reach out to us at PPM Works, at info@ppmworks.com, or you can reach out to us on our YouTube channel. You can find us at youtube.com/c/ppm works. If you just search for PPM Works, you'll find our channel. I encourage you to subscribe, because we have new videos, not just our webinars, but anytime we find something new and neat that we want to share with our clients, we create a video and share that knowledge with you via YouTube. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions, and you can always comment on our YouTube videos as well if you have any questions. We monitor those often as well. Thanks for joining, and we hope that you found this video helpful.